Do androids dream of electric sheep? Hello everyone, and welcome to Movie Reviews by Josh. My name is Josh Terry, and today I'm going to be telling you a little bit about Blade Runner 2049. And when I say a little bit, I mean a little bit, because this is kind of a unique experience at the press screening to kind of give you a peek behind the curtain of how things go down. At this screening, we were actually given two different messages from the director. The way he put it was kind of a request. Use discretion as far as what we talk about and don't talk about in terms of revealing the plot and the details of the movie. Now, completely understandable, because a movie like this, something that's really anticipated, you want to be able to go in fresh. And that's basically kind of the way that I approach all my reviews anyway. But in this case, we were actually given a list of some specific items that they were asking us to avoid. And so with that in mind, you may find this review to be a little bit vague, a little bit ambiguous. Just know it's not my fault. So if you are actually interested in a little bit more in-depth discussion that includes some spoilers, we're also going to be releasing a follow-up video in a few days where I'll be able to kind of go in a little bit more detail, assuming that you've already seen the film. So watch that one maybe after you've had a chance to go see it. Blade Runner 2049. We know from the opening crawl that this is taking place, a good 25, 30 years in the future after the events of the first movie. The first movie, came back in, what was it, 82, give or take, Ridley Scott. Harrison Ford plays Deckard, who is a Blade Runner, who is this guy who's basically a cop, and he's been, charged with hunting down these rebellious, violent androids that are called replicants. And so Blade Runner 2049 is kind of the very long-awaited sequel. It's been, 35, pushing, 40 years now since this thing first came out. And this time around, there is a new Blade Runner, and it's played by Ryan Gosling, and his name is Kay. And he basically has the same job because in the interim, in the 25, 30 years that have elapsed in the film time, the post-apocalyptic landscape of future Los Angeles has gotten that much worse. There's been collapsing ecosystems, and there's been a blackout that's kind of wiped out a lot of electronic information and records. But it still kind of has this same beautiful, bleak landscape that's very modern and very technological, but also looks very post-apocalyptic and has, a lot of uniform color palettes. And I'm describing the visuals here because I can't describe the plot as much, but also because that's really what this movie is worthwhile for, is that it just is a singular visual experience. And if you go see this movie, that's why you go see it. Combined with the soundtrack that kind of springboards off of the Vangelis soundtrack from the first one, it's still kind of like this moody, kind of electronic, kind of industrial, but also kind of haunting and poetic type of stuff. It's really something. It really is. And for me personally, that's what I enjoyed about the first movie. Not so much the story. Like, I actually felt like the story kind of felt short a little bit. In the first movie, Deckard just kind of hunting down the replicants. In 2049, Ryan Gosling's doing the same thing because there are still some stragglers. In fact, one of the things that they do say is okay for us to talk about is that there are now two types of replicants. There are the original ones that were kind of the rebellious ones, but now there are also there's kind of a new breed that's being constructed by this guy named Wallace, who's played by Jared Leto, and these ones are more obedient. These ones are more well-behaved, and these are kind of the ideal slave race that they were going for the first time around. Kay, Ryan Gosling's character, arrives on this farm type place outside of Los Angeles, and he finds an old original replicant who's been hiding out, and in the process of dealing with him, makes a discovery that kind of leads him on this kind of noir mystery kind of sci-fi journey that ties back into the original film, just like you would expect it would. Now, the way it ties in and the people it involves and the things that happen, that's kind of what they don't want us to really give away. And again, which is understandable, but never quite so specified. Blade Runner 2049 is expanding on and developing the themes of the first movie, which have to do with, what constitutes life. What's the difference between something that is alive and has a soul versus something that is manufactured? And it's blurring those lines. And this movie actually goes even farther with that. And it kind of plugs back into this world. And I think that's one of the main successes of this film, is the way that it takes kind of the groundbreaking visual style of the first one and is true to it, but also modernizes in terms of 21st century technology and CGI anyway. This movie looks great. It looks really fantastic, and I think that is going to be the main draw. The story is pretty good. I actually, in some ways, kind of like the story better than the first one, which may be sacrilege if you're a diehard fan, and I consider myself a fan of the first movie. It's really the experience of being in this world that I think is the main draw here. I end up giving this one about 3, maybe 3.5 stars out of 4. It's not a perfect movie. It's pushing 2.5, 3 hours long, and with such a kind of a drawn out, it's a very slow, deliberate paced, kind of imposing sense of dread type of tone, and it feels like maybe it could have been trimmed back a little bit. Maybe it could have been streamlined just a hair here and there. Another thing actually that I found a little bit strange about the movie, maybe just kind of a little annoying, the movie is rated R, which everybody pretty much expected because the first movie was rated R, but this one feels a little bit forced. The first movie pretty much got its rating for some graphic extreme violence. And what's strange about 2049 is that the violence is really pretty muted by comparison. I mean, I think that, if you're being technical about it, you could say, okay, well, this is getting into R-rated territory, but it's really pretty restrained. The rating actually seems to come more from just a handful of, dropping the F-bomb a few times, which, coming from Robin Wright's mouth, seems a little bit forced, doesn't seem very natural, and it seems like it was kind of plugged in for the sake of, well, let's make sure we get the R rating. Robin Wright plays Kay's police chief, basically, and so she's kind of trying to chew him out and getting angry and different things, and just seems kind of weird. The rating also comes from probably a little more nudity than you might have expected. It's not necessarily sexual in nature, and it has a little bit more to do with kind of like the replicant birth type thing, but be advised. So, am I a replicant? Leave your answers in the comments below. Please subscribe on your way out, keep your notifications on, and be sure to click the link and go check out the Rockagator stuff, our proud sponsor. Thanks for watching. This has been Movie Reviews by Josh. My name is Josh Terry, or maybe it isn't. Check out the Rockagator stuff. We'll see you next time.